Well, in his first press conference as governor, Kelly Armstrong touched on Minot Air Force Base and the rebuilding of the nuclear triad. Armstrong told reporters he's been working with the Sentinel project for 6 years now. He says a key issue is how to maintain the existing fleet when the weather is 30 degrees below zero outside. However, Armstrong says he believes that the state is ahead of the game in this field because they've worked with the project a lot at the federal level.
What I'm most concerned about in the meantime is making sure that we have the adequate resources to service those missiles while they're still in service until we transition over.
Armstrong says he's been in contact with Senators John Hoeven and Kevin Cramer, as well as Representative-elect Julie Fedorchak, regarding the progress of the Sentinel project.